Professor, what do we know for sure about UAPs?
The thing that we know for sure is that we don't know what it is, but we do know that there is something here. Something that I think defies explanation, but that something can be studied from a scientific viewpoint.
There's a genuine mystery.
Yes. First of all, the government has been lying to us for the last 60 or 70 years.
I am here to discuss the so-called flying saucers.
Our critics continually charge that the United States Air Force is withholding information from the general public on this subject. This is absolutely untrue.
And there is nothing in the records which would indicate that we have been visited by any advanced civilization.
There's nothing to hide.
There's nothing to hide at all.
Why do you think the US government's lied?
I think it's because, frankly, they didn't understand what it was, but second, they didn't want to admit that they didn't have control over our airspace.
But do you think there's been a cover-up?
Absolutely. There has been both a cover-up as well as a disinformation campaign to make people look like they were crazy.
When it got to the top of the trees, it stopped.
So it looked like a round disc.
Are you sorry now that you did tell people what you saw?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry because not that it's not the truth, but it's just the idea, the reaction of the people. They think you're a nut. Tell you the truth, that's just what they figure you are. And I'm not going to take it no more. I don't want nobody down in here. I just leave me alone. And if the thing lands right there by that pump, I'd never say a word.
Is it a dangerous thing for you to admit that you think these things about the phenomenon?
I think it's dangerously necessary. I think that this is the kind of thing that if we continue to ignore it, if we continue to ignore the potential danger of what it might represent, we are putting ourselves at risk, both to what it might do to us sometime in the future, but then ignoring the physics of what these things are capable of doing.
Let's talk about it. What is it?
You know, I wish I knew, and of all the people that I've spoken with on the inside, there's really very little unanimity about what it is, except for that whatever it is appears to be so far advanced from us that it beggars understanding.
So you don't think it's human?
Oh, I'm sure it's not human.
Is it intelligent?
Yes. It certainly acts it, and in some cases it seems to have a sense of humor.
So Gary, the implications of what you're saying there are enormous, aren't they? You're suggesting that there is a highly advanced civilization that is intelligent, it's not human, and it's real.
Yeah, I almost hesitate even to call it a civilization. A civilization implies a lot of interacting parts that are moving towards some sort of goal. I couldn't even say whether or not what it is that is being observed is something like that.
Do you think the highest probability is that whatever they are extraterrestrial?
I don't think so, no. I think it's, whatever it is, it's been here a long time. So, and certainly it's been here longer than we've been civilized. So, at the very least, who really owns the planet? Who was here first?
Whatever this is, the extraterrestrial explanation doesn't quite explain it.
Yeah, I mean, it could explain it. But you could equally, and this is Jacques Vallée's original hypothesis, the interdimensional hypothesis, that whatever this is, if you imagine an expanded universe conceptually, the multiverse that everybody talks about, could be just as easily coming from over there as it is from the other side of our own universe.
A lot of people watching this are going to be incredibly skeptical. What does he know? Where's the evidence? Where's the data to prove what you say?
The data, frankly, is in the videos, first of all, that we've all seen by now. And if you haven't seen them, I'd go look up the Nimitz UFO encounter videos. The other evidence is in the thousands of reports of things that people have seen.
It just come up like that, and then it tipped, and just, I mean, really went. It went fast. I've never seen anything go so fast in my life as that thing went. Yeah.
Unlike fighters, they would almost stop in their forward velocity and change 90 degrees, sometimes in their flight path. And within the next 2 to 3 days, we'd had practically all the fighters we could muster on the base up climbing as high as they would climb with guys with binoculars in them, still trying to spot these strange devices flying overhead. And we never could get close enough really to pin them down, but they were round in shape and very metallic looking. And they would come over and do the same maneuvers that we make, except every once in a while one of them would go zip. And you just can't do that in a fighter.
When they came out over the blackness of the bay, they're distinct 6 red coins. When they got closer, we could see that it looked like you were looking down into it, like a hot coal. Came in like this and went out like this. There would be no way of making complete reversal or a 90-degree turn, 12,000 miles an hour or greater, without making the occupants juice on the wall. That kind of really shook us up. Looking at the thing shook us up. Nothing could have gotten to that degree of scientific progress without some of the intermediate steps having become public knowledge. We just knew that they were not from this planet.
You know, you can call it anecdotal, but to me, I call it preliminary data. It basically raises the question of what is it and what can we do about it? How can we study it? And so perhaps the best evidence that is thought to exist is the stuff that is being held in government hands, that many people, again, anecdotally have come forward and said, this exists and it's not from here.
But the other thing that you've been roped into is analysing samples. And there's one case I'm fascinated with, which is the Council Bluffs, Iowa event in December 1977. Police and 11 different witnesses from 4 different groups came across a pile of molten slag that they saw fall from a craft of some kind.
A blinking craft.
It was still bubbling and hot. The police testified to this as well. They were on the scene.
And quite a bit of investigation was done back at the time on this, where they looked at the metals.
This was molten steel.
Molten metal. I mean, it was molten iron. It was not steel. It had iron in it, nickel, a few other impurities. But what I found most interesting in our analysis of it was what we would call the inhomogeneity of the material, meaning it was incompletely mixed. So if you looked in one part of the material, you found all the same elements, but the ratios were different than if you looked in another area.
You've got some kind of material, metal, being squirted, belched at by a craft that is witnessed by many people.
And it's not the only story like this. In fact, there are multiple stories of these craft dropping stuff. In fact, there's a case nearby, multiple times seen in Fresno, these objects, and one of them apparently dropped something right on these people's driveway.
Why would they drop metal on a driveway?
So let's say that, for instance, this was an object, a UFO. Maybe this is part of the propulsion system. And maybe when you're done with enough of the propulsion or something has gone wrong, some imbalance, you essentially squirt it out the back.
Or could it just be that E.T. has a sense of humor and loves the idea of driving a scientist like you batty?
There's certainly a little bit of that. I often wonder, and Jacques and I talk about this sometimes.
This is Jacques Vallée.
Jacques Vallée.
Yeah.
How much of what is being done is them just leading us around by the nose for fun. But continue to do it, because I'm having fun.